WWE are at it again. WrestleVotes did warn us yesterday that more releases are on the way, and that promise was definitely fulfilled by WWE because we expect a handful of names. We got 18 in total. Going to give my thoughts, give you the names that were released. You're probably aware of most of them by now. I'll give my opinion on it, and then I'll see where they're going next. So there'll be a chapters feature in this video at the bottom of your ticker if you want to skip ahead to anything here. But let's go for the names, shall we, then, that have been released then by WWE in the last 24 hours. We've got Frankie Monet, Ember Moon, Jessica Meyer, Katrina Cortez, Jeet Rama, Oni Lorcan, Trey Baxter, Zaida Ramira, Scarlett Bordeaux, B-Fab, Grand Metalik, Lindsay Dorado, Karrion Kross, Harry Smith, Nia Jax, Eva Marie, Keith Lee, and Mia Yim, and all of them released due to budget cuts. Now, of course, that's meant to have come as a apparently from John Laurinaitis, apparently, and all of that as a source comes from Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select. So that's your source there of where all this information was gathered from yesterday. First and foremost, of course, it's awful to see that people have lost their jobs once again. I have lost count how many have been this year. I think it's got to be up to about 70. It's like an entire roster that's been cut this year. And of course, I suppose we should have seen it coming. We've had another one of those conference calls, the third quarter of the year from WWE. So it's kind of one of those times where we know these releases probably will be coming. Then releasing and saying that they've got, record numbers once again, WWE. This doesn't need to be done. Some of these talents here have come into the company this year. Some of them have only been signed for like 2 months, like Harry Smith. Some, like B-Fab, signed a contract extension last week, and then you're releasing these people. It just doesn't make sense, and it's kind of cruel in a way, because I think Jordan Grace put it best on her Twitter page, actually. It's a case of, if people's contracts run out and you decide not to renew them, or you don't see something, then fair enough, but to make people move their lives and then within a short space of time then just terminate the contracts so they have to start again, that's not cool. I'm not a fan of the way that a lot of this has been handled, as you can imagine. But what I would say is that looking at it, there's a lot of talent on this list here that WWE were not using correctly. And once again, I would say that if these talents can find pastures new, there's the evidence out there. You look at Deanna Prazo, you look at Chelsea Green, Chelsea Green's been saying that this has been the best year of her life, and she got fired from WWE. The stuff she's gone on to do, it's what you make of it. And of course, there will be, non-compete clauses, whether it's the NXT stars will be 30 days for the, more main roster stars, it will be 90 days. So we'll have to wait to see where these people are going to go. But I do hope for them that if they can find pastures new, that they will have the opportunity to better themselves and perhaps be better than what WWE would have ever booked them. So that's the positive side of looking at it. But the negative side of looking at it is that, Ring of Honor have had a load of talents that have just, going to be released from their contracts as well. There's loads of WWE talents that have been released that haven't been re-signed, so somewhere else. So you kind of question, will everybody be re-signed? So there is that bit of a feeling as well. And like I say, there's talents there on that list that I just can't believe WWE doesn't know what to do. If you look at Keith Lee, for example, I mean, that's a guy's a megastar in the making. The fact that they couldn't book him right is just ludicrous. And the way he was booked in NXT as well, this guy was, he was going to the moon, wasn't he? He was NXT champion, North American champion at the same time. Then he was hot-shotted to Raw, and just, it went from one disaster after another. Now, Karrion Kross, another fine example from NXT, been booked like a monster, booked perfectly, had Scarlett by his side, gets called up to Raw, loses on his first night to Jeff Hardy after being a full solid year unbeaten. Lost in a couple of minutes, by the way. It wasn't even like a 15-minute classic to do so. It was almost like punishment with how NXT was being booked and how it was doing against AEW, and they took it out on Karrion Kross. They've repackaged him twice since, with stupid gimmicks as well, and they wonder why it's not got over. When you look at NXT, the guy was getting over pretty darn well in NXT. Let's talk B-Fab as well. Something that was a part of NXT of Hit Row, just being called up, a part of a group that was getting over so organically and so well in NXT. And to my happiness, actually, they were not even touched. They were just brought up and said, just be Hit Row. I thought, this has got mainstream potential, and within a couple of weeks, you're releasing B-Fab. Now, granted, she's probably not ready in ring at this stage from what I'd seen from her on NXT. I did think she was a little bit green, had a way to go in ring, but she had personality, she had charisma, she had something that helped get that group over further, and as a quartet, they were going places. And I do worry now, are WWE going to change Hit Row? it puts lots of question marks, and it must be so damaging for morale backstage with all the wrestlers there, because anyone could go at any given time. Now, a few rumours have come out, age being one factor, vaccinations being another one. Of course, talents need to be vaccinated by the start of next year, unless these big companies of more than 100 talents want to do continual testing all the time. So I can understand from that aspect why a couple of those things may have come into factor, but I'm still baffled that some of the people here are stars in the making, and they've not been able to be fulfilling that potential in WWE, and it's happening to be fulfilled somewhere else. But hey, what's WWE's loss will be someone else's gain, and we've seen it, like I said already, with so many other talents. And it comes to that stage again of what next? Where will they go next? So I'm going to go through some of the names and say where I think they will go, and then perhaps with a few will be a bit more thrown together at the end, because it's hard to know with everyone. Like I said, there's so many free agents out there. It's got to be fantastic for the indie market right now. It'll raise the profile of a lot of these indie promotions as well, being able to get hold of a big name and put them on their show. That must be really cool, and be great for local, people that go to local events and stuff to actually see these people live and in person, where perhaps it's maybe more difficult to go to a WWE show. So yeah, there are ways and means about it, but let's skip that part to the side now. It is awful, it's very sad, and we all know that, and we wish everybody all the very, very best going forward. But what is going forward? Let's go through some of the names and let's make some predictions. And I'm starting off with Keith Lee, because as far as I'm concerned, Keith Lee can go wherever he wants and he will be a success. Now, for me, he could go to Impact, he could become an instant world champion, but I've gone with the AEW graphic because I just believe he will be an All Elite wrestler. Now, I know people are already going to be screaming at this screen and saying to me, look, AEW has a full roster. They don't need anybody else. Every time you do these videos, you put another 2 or 3 names at least, probably even more, to All Elite Wrestling, because these are the biggest stars and this is the biggest company they can go to. Well, AEW's been around now for nearly 3 years, coming in January, and a lot of their talents that signed at the start there, some of those contracts are going to start coming up soon. Some talent is going to get released from All Elite Wrestling. Is it going to be done the way WWE does it? Probably not. They're just going to have their contracts not renewed. Now, I'm not saying they're going to release every talent that's contract is coming up. Of course not. They'll sign and keep all of the people that are making numbers for All Elite Wrestling. But not everybody is doing that. So some talents will be leaving that company soon. And when you've got a talent like Keith Lee that can push some numbers, do some extraordinary things in the ring. I mean, he's a big man who can fly like a cruiserweight. He puts on wow factor matches. I think Keith Lee is someone you sign if he becomes available. He's the reason that Tony Khan will turn around and say, I need to get hold of someone like that on my roster. It's different to someone else that I don't have. He will stand out. And think of those big man matches Keith Lee can have on there with like a Lance Archer, Miro. There's so many people who can go in and do, matches with the likes of Kenny Omega. Adam Cole could see again even. I mean, there's so many great matches on that roster. And let's not forget, the homegrowns of AEW. If you want to do the MJFs, the Darby Allins, the Jungle Boys, Keith Lee can mix it up with everybody. He's a standout performer. He's arguably a generational performer. And let's not forget one other keynote as well. Mark Henry was a big advocate for Keith Lee. And where is he now? He's not in WWE. He's in All Elite Wrestling. So I think Keith Lee will be going there. And Mia Yim could be joining him. There's no reason why Mia Yim couldn't. Could be a great asset to any women's division. I've put the graphic here of Impact Wrestling just because that's where I personally would like her to go. And you may say, well, couples stick together. They don't always do so. I mean, Jordan Grace and Jonathan Gresham have been in different companies for years. Ty and Valkyrie, which I'll be coming on to in a second, Frankie Monet, if you want, and John Morrison have not always been in the same company together. So it does happen in wrestling. You don't always go to the same place. You do what's right for your career, but of course, you get more time together if you're in the same company. So for me, I would like her to go back to Impact as Jade, but I wouldn't be surprised if she's part of All Elite Wrestling either. Keeping things AEW, Karrion Kross, or should I say Killer Kross and Scarlett Bordeaux, yeah, I do think it's going to happen, because what you could do with Killer Kross there, I mean, I don't know what the situation was with Impact. I think it probably was a little bit sad with the way he left that company at the time. I think I've seen things on social media. Could be wrong. If I'm wrong, I do apologise about that. But I would say I think All Elite Wrestling is where I think he will go, because again, it's one of the more high-profile names there. And those two as a package work really, really well. And the way that AEW performs, they don't just throw someone, hotshot them into the main event all the time. You take the Malachi Black route, for example, throw him in there, have some matches where he's squashing talent, working his way up the ladder for the first 6, even to 12 months. He is going to look like an absolute killer, pun intended, an absolute monster, and it will just bring the shine back to what Karrion Kross was and the way he was booked in NXT before you mix it up with those other talents where he's got a chance of losing. I think it would be a perfect way to do so, and I do think star potential can be realised. I mean, this guy's amazing on the mic. We never got to see that real sort of side of him in WWE. Go watch an Impact Wrestling promo backstage, or a vignette of Killer Kross. It's absolutely incredible. It's second to none. And with Scarlett by his side as well, just makes him feel that extra bit more special. And with a superb entrance that that they've been put together before in NXT, it can be put together somewhere else in a different format rather than what Raw was doing to him. I think we can make a star in the making here with those two together, so I do have high hopes for that. Taya Valkyrie, I mentioned it again. I think All Elite Wrestling is the perfect place for her just because it's something different, but she could go back to Impact Wrestling. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. Impact, there's no place like home sometimes, is there? And it would be quite cool to see her go back to Impact Wrestling. But hey, I mean, AEW at the moment, like I said, for the women's division, they still could do with a couple of names, in my opinion. And Taya Valkyrie, I'm going to go Taya Valkyrie from here on, I think personally would be an asset to any women's division. And I think for AEW at this point, the experience factor, one of the best that's out there to sign right now, I think would be great for that women's division. It'd be great for the young up-and-comers, but it'd be great as well for that top headlining area of the women's division. The only thing right now, if she was to be in AEW instead of Impact, I think she would be playing second fiddle to Britt Baker. She could be playing second fiddle to Deonna Purrazzo in Impact, but at the same time, Deonna's recently lost that championship. I think that Frankie, or I should say Taya, I think if she goes back to Impact, could go straight in towards that top end of the card. Ember Moon, though, I definitely say will be All Elite because for me, there's a talent there, and I just think, again, would be an asset to that division. So, yeah, I really can see that one happening just because, the total clip she does off the top rope, it's standout, it's special. I think she'll be great in the Knockouts division as well, if I'm brutally honest. So I think whoever gets either of those last two I've mentioned there, I think would be winning in life generally as a wrestling company. So let's see what goes down. I'm going to say Nia Jax for Impact, just purely because I don't see her going to AEW. It could be hard to see what will be next for Nia, if I'm brutally honest, but I think Impact may look for the star power of what there is for Nia Jax, because there is name value there. Let's not forget she's a former Raw Women's Champion, former WWE Women's Tag Team Champion as well, and she did have that storyline that got over really, really well with Alexa Bliss around WrestleMania 34. That won awards as well around the time, so yeah, okay, Nia Jax is not everybody's cup of tea, but hey, let's see what can happen for her next. Maybe somewhere that would use her properly. Maybe someone like Impact may be able to make a better job of it. So let's see what goes on further down the line. I'm going to go then and talk next now about Harry Smith, who, let's be fair, 2 months in WWE, was signed. I think it was going to be a top talent for NXT UK, and then with the travelling restrictions still was like that, then they decided to go main roster. Didn't know what to do with him. I think he did one dark match. He's been with the company a couple of months. It's criminal. Maybe back to New Japan. Maybe New Japan Strong could be really, really good for Harry Smith. I'd really like to see that if he was to do that. I'm happy to see him anywhere. Look, with all these wrestlers, I'm happy to see them anywhere on my TV screen. As long as I see them on my TV screen, that's pretty much it. And I think Harry Smith, I've always been a big fan of the British Bulldog. I've always been a fan of David Boy Smith Jr., if you want to go down that avenue as well, and he's part of the Hart Dynasty in WWE. I enjoyed Harry Smith's work in New Japan, so why not? Let's see it happen. I'd like to see him go back there. And same with Oney Lorcan. I think he would be well suited to the New Japan sort of strong style. I don't know if he'd be a top star there, but he can have some great matches. I'd be quite interested in seeing that. Oney Lorcan, he's someone I could see in a number of places really. MLW, probably go to GCW maybe, could even go to like NWA. I think he's kind of got that vibe, but New Japan Strong would be something I'd be quite keen on seeing. Gonna talk Eva Marie next now, just purely because, I think she's gonna be fine. I don't think she's gonna come back to wrestling, to be honest. She's been doing acting, she's got like fitness stuff she's got going on. She was fine without WWE before. She's come back It's not worked out, and I think she'll just go away from wrestling. I don't think she probably needs to. So yeah, I actually think this will probably, we won't see either for a very, very long time in any form of wrestling capacity. Next, I'll quickly talk about Trey Baxter. I'm a big fan of his work. I think he's really, really good, and more knowing better as Blake Christian, and you can see that's why I put the Impact graphic on the screen, because he was doing a number of dates for Impact at the start of the year before signing with WWE and NXT. I think that if Impact remembers the great work they were doing with this high-class talent they've got, I think it's perfect for the X Division. So yeah, sign him up. That's where I want to see Trey Baxter going forward. Let's talk Lince Dorado and Gran Metalik. Now, these two wanted to leave out of WWE, so not really so surprised this one has happened this time, and, you know, they've got their wish, so if anything, power to them. Where they'll go next, I mean, they could be useful to any tag team division. Both are extremely underrated. Again, the X Division, it'd be really cool to see them both there, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them go to Mexico in some form, continue their partnership somewhere else, whether it be AAA, CMLL, perhaps they do Japan. I don't know. It's hard to predict with these two where they're going to be going next, but I think that their future is also very, very promising, so I look forward to seeing what will be next. And as for the rest of the names there, personally for me, I suppose, you know, it's hard to predict where any of them will go at this point, but someone like, you know, the indie scene would definitely benefit from having those names there. Perhaps maybe like an MLW could be potential as well. You know, there is definitely a lot of talent in amongst this lot here, and I do wish them all the very, very best going forward. But that's sort of what I think anyway off the top of my head, and like overall, as I say, it's always awful doing these sort of videos talking about people being released, but sometimes I try and look at the positives and try and think, well, what's next? And you've seen with so many talents, they've managed to, you know, come through the other side. WWE isn't the be all and end all anymore. It's not the destination necessary to make a star. There is so much out there in the wrestling world right now. So many great companies that are getting, you know, global fan bases as well. You know, we talk about, you know, with AEW, they haven't got a streaming service yet, but they're on TNT. You've got Impact, you've got Impact Plus, you've got New Japan that's got their sort of streaming service as well. So fans are watching from all over the world on all these particular companies. So yeah, there is a chance to see, you know, people prosper coming out this the other side and still making an even bigger reputation to a point that they could be bigger stars than what they currently are or were being booked in WWE. They weren't being used right, a lot of them. So, you know, hopefully this will be the start of something special for many of those superstars. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. This is your turn to get involved. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the bell, turn it on the notifications to all so you know each and every time a video is released. I want to say a quick thank you to absolutely everybody that's been checking out my last video based on Ring of Honor, where will they all go next. And yeah, that video last time I checked has got over 8,000 views, which is the highest ever on this channel. I'm so grateful. Thank you to everybody and to all the recent subscribers as well. Thank you so much to everybody subscribing to the channel. It really, really, truly does mean a lot, and I hope you enjoy the content here on SCW. And to everyone that has been subscribed and has been following throughout the journey, honestly, without all you, this channel isn't anything. So thank you for your continued support, for watching the videos, you know, for leaving your likes, leaving your comments. It really, really does go a long way to help grow this channel, and I'm extremely grateful, so thank you so much. But I'm going to leave you now. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Of course, the Q&A will be back on Sunday. That's why I'm looking to do that. So ask SCW. You can drop a question as well in the comments below if you want. It's just the one question, though, is the maximum I ask, and I'll give you a shout out in the video as well, along with answering your question. But have yourselves a good one. Take care. I'll see you for that on Sunday, and check out these other videos on the side of the screen right about now. All the best. Take care. I'll see you soon here on SCW and here on YouTube.